Yeah, my name is Harry Quicke. I'm Western Stewardship and Development Manager for Bayer. I'm going to talk today about cooperative research to develop a new tool for rangeland restoration. I've been driving around in the West for many years, and I've seen sites like this on many occasions. This, for example, is a site where cheatgrass has totally replaced the perennial grass that occurs in this sagebrush community. And then sites such as this one, where there are just a few remaining perennial grasses trying to survive in the sea of invasive annual grass, cheatgrass. And then I've also seen the devastating impacts of cheatgrass fueled wildfire and the just unbelievable impact that these have, especially with the increase in frequency of these wildfires. So 5 years ago, I was given the opportunity to contribute to the development of a solution to this problem. The research, however, started long before that, and in fact in 2010 we had the first plots installed with Esplanade to look at its impact on cheatgrass control. So this trial was installed by Jim Sebastian near Rifle, Colorado, and we're looking several years after the treatment, and you can see how effective the treatment was in not only controlling the annual grass, but also promoting the growth of the perennial forbs and shrubs on that site. So this transitioned into a graduate student project at Colorado State University under Dr. Scott Nissen, working with Derek Sebastian as the graduate student. At that time, the Bayer Vegetation Management Group consisted of two people, David Spack and Matt Nispeka, and David set up this graduate student project at Colorado State. This picture actually shows one of their very first trials, and here they were looking at the timing of the application of the new herbicide. So in 2015, the Bayer Group expanded, the Vegetation Management Group expanded. We were able to expand this work to the rest of the West. So the red dots show university trials that started in fall of 2015 or 2016. And then the yellow dots show additional trials that have been added since that time. So today we have over 130 replicated field trials. 18 university departments have been involved, 22 faculty and grad students, and 12 agency, local government, and NGO cooperators. So Corey Ransom, of course, is one of those cooperators, Tim Prather as well, that's presented here, and there are many others. Some of this research has led to peer-reviewed journal publications. There are 8 peer-reviewed publications out there today with 16 unique authors. Publications such as Outlooks in Pest Management, Invasive Plant Science and Management, Weed Science, Pest Management Science, and Rangeland Ecology and Management. So all of this research has led to a new product which was registered for use in rangeland by the EPA in June. So this is very new, 15 days ago. And the new product is Rejuvra, and it's going to be submitted for state approvals. That's going to happen very soon. So Rejuvra is now specifically labeled for use on rangeland. And as we know, that's very diverse across the western US, ranging from the Front Range of Colorado to the Great Basin, to high elevation sites in the Rockies, to the Great Plains of Montana and Wyoming, just to name a few of the ecoregions that where we find rangeland in the western US. Rejuvra is also labeled for natural areas. Some examples are parks and open space, wildlife management areas, recreational areas, fire rehabilitation areas, prairies, and fire breaks. And of course, one of the main attributes of Rejuva is that it controls invasive annual grasses. You saw that in Corey Ransom's presentation before mine. So Rejuva will control the annual bromus species, including cheatgrass, cheat, Japanese brome, and red brome. It also controls medusa head, ventonata, feral rye, and jointed goatgrass. This is one of the very early trials done just to look at the activity of Rejuva and comparing it to plateau, which has been commonly used for annual grass control across the West. So here we're looking at the herbicide dose resulting in a 50% reduction in dry biomass. And you can see there on average how much more active Rejuva was than plateau. So 15 times more active than plateau on the annual invasive grasses. This is from work published in Invasive Plant Science and Management. Of course, we also needed to look in the field at how well Rejuva controls these annual invasive grasses. So here we're looking at control the first summer after treatment. We have untreated on the bottom, 2 alternative herbicide treatments, plateau and matrix, and then Rejuva at the green bar on the top. So that's the first summer after treatment. If we skip to the second summer after treatment, you can see the residual control of Rejuva really working. And whereas in the other herbicides, the annual grasses have already started to increase again in the plots, Rejuva continues to hold out the annual invasive grass. And now we skip to the fourth summer after treatment, and we can see that in Rejuva treated plots, the annual grasses have still not returned. So this just provides us with an amazing opportunity. We know that the annual grasses the seeds remain viable for many years in the soil. And so with multi-years of control, for the first time, we have a really good opportunity to start depleting the annual grass seed bank. Of course, controlling the annual grasses is really not what we're after, because we also need to promote the growth of the desirable perennials. So the characteristics of Rejuva make this ideal. It's a pre-germination herbicide that inhibits root growth of emerging seedlings. So on the left-hand side there, you see a cheatgrass, Bromus tectorum seedling that was exposed to increasing concentrations of Rejuva. And of course, as the concentration increases, you get to the point where no roots develop and the cheatgrass dies. So the schematic on the right explains it. The Rejuva, when it's applied, stays in the top surface of the soil, and that's where the annual grasses and other annual weeds germinate. So they're exposed to the herbicide and die. The perennials have their roots below that herbicide layer and are not impacted. So going back to the field now, we see and have documented many cases where we can see Rejuva releasing the perennial grasses. You see the left side untreated, totally dominated by cheatgrass, and the right side, the perennial wheatgrass in this case, is released. So if we look across all the data that we have for Rejuva at 5 ounces per acre, we can see this increase in perennial grass production over the untreated check. And this is a percentage increase. So for Rejuva at the second summer after treatment, we've documented a 250% increase in perennial grass production. I will caution here that perennial grass response is going to be highly variable and dependent on individual site conditions. I just wanted to go around the West and show some different examples of trials that we've had. This is ventonata control in Washington. Everybody's standing in an area heavily impacted by ventonata. And in the inset, you can see the Rejuva treatment releasing the perennial grass surrounded by Ventinata. This is Medusa head control in Utah. You can see untreated on the left-hand side, perennial grass is highly suppressed. What these annual grasses do, in fact, is put all the perennial plants into a state of permanent drought, because the annual grasses have taken all the moisture and nutrients before the perennial plants even break dormancy in the spring. This shows cheatgrass downy brome control in Wyoming, again untreated on the left and Rejuva on the right. And then looking at red brome control in Arizona, this is a desert southwest site, and you can see on the inset on the right that the Rejuva is keeping out the red brome. And then going to feral rye control in Colorado. Both sides of the fence were the same before this treatment. Feral rye is a little more difficult to control, and in fact on this site there has been 2 applications of Rejuva, but it's just incredible to see the native perennial grasses and forbs come back on that site. So I wanted to mention one last attribute here of Rejuva, and that is control of biennial and perennial weeds. So the idea here is you use a tank mix partner to eliminate the weed, provide burn down, and that stops seed production. And then Rejuva stops recruitment from the soil seed bank. So we have 3 species here: common mullein, Dalmatian toadflax, and diffuse knapweed. Standard treatments being Tordon or Teleron plus Tordon. And the light blue bars, you can see what happened with the addition of Rejuva. And this is 3 seasons after treatment, where we're still seeing really good control of those 3 species. And here's a picture of one site, Tordon on the left, and then Tordon with Rejuva on the right. And you can see the extended residual control of common mullein, Dalmatian toadflax, and diffuse knapweed. So another exciting aspect of Rejuva, it is a new mode of action for resistance management in rangeland. So today the rangeland annual grass control options are mainly ALS inhibitors. That includes Plateau and Rimsulfuron. They are group 2 herbicide. And then Rejuva is a cellulose biosynthesis inhibitor, a group 29 herbicide, so providing a completely new mode of action. If you look on the table on the left-hand side, you'll see many documented cases of annual grass ALS resistance in the USA. So it's really good that we have this additional option. So with that, I want to thank you all for your attendance today. There is additional information today at rejuva.com. We will be expanding that site to include more information over time, and also a link to this webinar recording. I'll be covering stewardship considerations related to Rejuva in the last presentation today.